What's up, ladies and gentlemen of YouTube? Boogie 298 coming at you live once again to the power of the internet. And if you don't pay very much attention to video game news, you may not be aware that Ubisoft is once again in the limelight for negative reasons, this time surrounding another controversy with the game Watch Dogs. Now, before we can talk about the current controversy, we need to talk about the previous one. For those of you who are unaware, Watch Dogs, when it was released, did not look near as good as the trailers that were shown at E3 2012 and 2013 made it out to be. A lot of really cool special effects that were available in those demos were not available in the final release. This led to a lot of ill will both in gaming press and amongst gamers who bought the game, who felt that the game was released without those original graphics was a bit of a bait and switch. They were frustrated and upset about the fact that the game just did not look as good as the game that they believed were being developed and the game that they were shown with these big trailers. As it turns out, though, many of those effects that we saw in the E3 trailers actually were coded, actually worked on, and even shipped in the PC release, only they got turned off. All of these hidden options were actually found by a member of the modder community by the name of The Worst, and he has released a mod that allows you to unlock all of these things that he is calling E3 effects, things that made the game look so incredible during the E3 trailers. Now, you need to be aware that the majority of the pictures and the videos you see of the enhanced version of Watch Dogs, the E3 version of Watch Dogs, is actually going to include a lot of other modifications. But one YouTuber, totalbiscuit, did create a gameplay video that shows what the game looks like only with these hidden options revealed. Now, if you take a look at the video totalbiscuit created, I'll link it down here below, you'll see that the game does look much better with these hidden options turned on. And in fact, since it's the PC version of the game, the PC version of the game does run considerably better for some people than it did without these options turned on. What all this basically means is that the PC version of the game could have and should have looked incredibly different than the Xbox One or the PS4 version. In fact, they, during the development cycle, coded all of these wonderful options and showed them off to us at E3. But somewhere before release, they decided to turn all of this off, make no mention of it, and sweep it under the rug. And that leaves all of us asking the question, why? Now, Ubisoft is being silent on the topic, so a large number of rumors are floating around as to why they've chosen to do this, but I think the answer is actually very simple. Ubisoft Montreal began developing Watch Dogs back in 2009, long before they had ever decided what the specs for the PlayStation 4 and the Xbox One were going to be. Ubisoft set out planning to make a truly next-gen game, not knowing that the Xbox One and PlayStation 4, when they were finally released, would not be capable of running all of these incredible features and all of these incredible things that they were including in Watch Dogs and showed us at the 2012 E3. While this is entirely speculation, I believe during the development cycle, sometime after 2012, when they finally had the specs for the PlayStation 4 and the Xbox One handed to them, they realized that a lot of the work they'd put into the game simply was not going to be able to make the final cuts because the consoles that were coming out simply couldn't handle it. Now, it's true that they had the option, and in my opinion, the duty to make the PC version look as good as it humanly possibly could, but they decided somewhere along the lines to create what we call parity with the consoles. Console parity is when they try to create a uniform experience across all the different generations of console as well as PC. This basically means that while the PCs that are out there available today can create some dramatically improved graphics over the current console generation of PlayStation 4 and Xbox One, they're going to instead choose to develop a slightly less powerful version of the game for PC so that it's in line with what we see in the consoles. And there are some games in the Xbox One and PlayStation 4 generation that actually look worse because they were developed to also play well on the PlayStation 3 and the Xbox 360. Now, you're probably thinking, Boogie, this is some crazy shit you've made up here, and while I'll admit it's crazy, it's not something I've made up. If you want evidence, you have to look no further than Far Cry 4's Alex Hutchinson. Far Cry 4's creative director Alex Hutchinson spoke with Major Nelson on his podcast and had this to say: even out of the box, even day one, we just stuck the code code on the new consoles, and we are able to dial it all the way up. So as a console player, you're already getting by far the best version we can ship. Even without delving any deeper or looking for any type of insinuation, it's very clear that they want Far Cry 4 to look as good as it can and about the same across all the next generation consoles and PC, and they're certainly not going to take any special time to try to make the PC version look more optimized or any better than the console version. And you know, we can throw stones at Ubisoft for doing this, but they're not the only people in the industry doing it. In fact, you need to see what Bungie had to say. When Jason Sussman of Bungie was asked why Destiny is only 30 frames per second on the Xbox One and the PlayStation 4, he had this to say: "A lot has to do with performance. We're cross-platform, so we had to be very delicate with all 4 consoles, making sure that they have the same experience, that it looks as good as it possibly can on all of these consoles. A lot goes into that, from geometry to textures to post-effects to particles to how many players you can get on the screen. We're always balancing that out to make sure everyone gets the same experience." So console parity is a thing, and parity between PC and consoles is always on the mind of many developers. In fact, when a developer makes a multi-platform copy of a game that's also going to be on PC, a lot of the times they shoot for a much more even line and unfortunately more generic version for the PC build than they have to. I think the Watch Dogs controversy just comes down to that they were developing all this incredible technology and all of these incredible graphics for consoles that simply were never going to exist, for much more powerful hardware than got shipped, and when they realized their mistake, they simply scrapped it. They showed no special favor to the PC version, which I think is a huge mistake, because there are 27 million registered Steam users out there, and Lord knows how many they have on Uplay. There is a large number of players who are interested in high-end AAA games that look phenomenal. I believe Rockstar knows this and is going to embrace it with Grand Theft Auto 5, and I see no reason that Watch Dogs or Far Cry 4 shouldn't embrace this as well. Ultimately, what it comes down to is that console parity, while cost-effective for the developer, is bad for the consumer. It means if you're a PC gamer, you're going to have to deal with limited graphics because the games are also being developed on the PlayStation 4 and the Xbox One. If you play on that generation of consoles, you're going to have to deal with worse graphics because those games are also being developed for the PlayStation 3 and the Xbox 360. Rather than shooting for the stars, they're shooting for mediocrity. Now, there are a lot of gamers who don't worry about graphic quality, and they don't worry about frame rate, and if you're one of those people, that's okay. Just love the game. I do too. But if you are one of those people that graphic quality matters to, if you're one of the people that really care about frame rate, and you want to get the best bang for the buck out of the hardware that you spent your hard-earned money to acquire, it's time to speak up. It is your duty to let these developers and let these companies know that you want the best graphical quality that you can get out of the hardware you own. And if they choose not to develop their software that way, then you're going to choose not to purchase it.